You think Howard is creepy. No, Pearl, whew, Pearl is worse than him. Like, Pearl is out here looking at, you know, Maxine like she's a Marilyn Monroe. Like, there's even this scene where Maxine is like taking a dive in a nearby lake or pond or whatever, and she's like, butt naked, just diving in the water. And this woman, Pearl, is just watching her from afar. I'm like, yo, like, are you okay? Like, lady, don't you have anything better to do? Like, I don't know, like, crochet, like, do some crochet or something. Like, why are you looking at young women naked? I don't know, it's creepy. Hello, everybody. This is me, your boy, Corey the Jokester, and we are back once again for another episode of Anything and Everything. Man, boy, do I love talking about movies. And boy, do I aspire to become a filmmaker myself, as I am currently in school right now studying for it. I'm about to enter my last semester in the coming months. But yeah, I am really pumped up for this movie that I am excited to talk to you all about today. And this movie, I have to say, A24, they are always known for having these very low budget, but yet again, very high polished, well shot, well acted art cinemas that will just blow you away every time you see one. And I love the authenticity that each film brings. One of my favorite A24 films right now is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, that's like my ultimate favorite now, because I just love how that film basically just, it wasn't afraid to go in different directions with it. And with it being a low budget film, I think it was worth $25 million. It had so many action sequences and so many special effects that when you watch it, you're just like, wow, all of this was $25 million? Because it was just so impressive. And then the cast was very, very well performed. Like, everyone did their thing and it was well written. But if you think I'm going to talk about that movie today, sadly, I will not be. I will be talking about another A24 movie that I have stumbled across just a few weeks ago that I've always been meaning to go see with my friends when it first came out, but we just never went about it, I guess. Some stuff happened, we were busy or whatnot. But this A24 film that I'm talking to you about today is none other than X. You all are thinking, X? Wait, that's the title? Yeah, X. The letter X. And the letter X, the title X, it serves as a double entendre, with X, one meaning being the X-rated pornography that the movie entails, because that's one theme of the film itself is porn. And the other meaning slashing, as this is also somewhat of a horror slasher film. So X, it has a double meaning in that regard. And I feel like it's really clever. I like the cleverness of the name, I think it's really alluring that they went about it in that direction. But X is a very unique film. It's a very unique horror film, as I should say, in that it's not afraid to go above and beyond to get its message across. It's not afraid to be bold and be feisty in how that message is delivered. And so X tells the story of a group of filmmakers who are on their way to this rural property owned by these elderly white people. And it takes place in 1979. And the central protagonist is none other than Maxine Minks, who is played by Mia Goth. And so Maxine is this young lady who is taking a road trip with her filmmaking entourage to Texas, and they are on their way to shoot a porno. They're shooting a short film to be distributed to everyone out there, and those pornographic audiences, people who like watching stuff like that. And so they get to this rural place, and they notice that there's something off about the elderly couple. They're really weird and they're really strange. Like, they are just really creepy people. And they have some dark secrets that kind of unfold throughout the film as it progresses. And, it's basically, it's a very bizarre but very authentic film in a way that it doesn't try to feel like it's another horror flick. Like, it's its own movie. That's the best way I can put it. And I really enjoyed the directions that they took with this film, because it just gave you something fresh. It gave you a fresh perspective on the horror genre. It also took the conventions of horror and sort of inverted it in some way. It made it into its own little flick. But it also pays homage to many older horror flicks in the past. One flick being the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one in 1974. It definitely pays homage to that in many ways. And it also pays homage to many other slashers of that time as well, since the film takes place in 1979, as I said before. But this won't be a spoiler review. This will be just a review of my thoughts and my take on it, and what I liked about it, and what I appreciated of the film. And so, first thing I want to say is I like how the film doesn't rush into the horror aspects right away. It's like the first half of the film, it focuses more on the pornography aspect of the film. Like, basically, it kind of gives you an insight of, and I really appreciated this about the film, it kind of gives you an insight of how the porn industry works. Like, it's not all about blood and gore at first. It's not all about, having this shock value to where, oh, people are just getting killed just to be killed left and right. No. There are actual characters who are really vital to the story, I guess. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, they have a good role. They play their parts. They're doing their thing. And it's an ensemble cast, by the way. It's, like I said, it's a group of filmmakers coming together to make a short film about porn. And, the cast, they do a wonderful job having their own distinctive personalities. Like, they're not one note. Everyone's not one note. They're all dimensional characters. Like, they have layers. They're all people with their own personalities, and they all mesh in so well together. And that's what I liked about the film, mainly because it doesn't try to rush into, like I said, the horror aspect with all the blood and the gore. Now, there are some horror aspects hinted throughout the, film or whatnot, but they gradually get to that moment. It's not like, oh, well, we got to kill someone now. Like, the killing, I want to say, doesn't really take into effect until, like, the horror aspects, it doesn't take into effect until the second to third act. Because, it's a slasher film. Someone's going to get killed. So that's no spoiler. But I'm just saying they don't rush into it right away. They actually give people time to breathe and be themselves, and be human beings. And I liked that a lot. I liked what the film does with that. I also liked the production design that they used to make it look like as if it was actually in the 1970s or the late 1970s. I thought that was really unique, really alluring to see. And I also liked the cinematography as well, because when you watch it, they use cinematography to kind of give that old aesthetic to the film. Like I said, to make it feel classic-y, I guess. And it's like I said, it's genius. Even with the scenes where they're filming the the pornography, They even have filters to where they use like old 1970s filters, you know, looking through the cameras that they used at the time to, make you feel like it's actually in the 1970s. And to me, I just thought that they really did a great job with getting with the times of that time. And this movie is directed by T. West. I don't really know too much about him. This is the first time I've ever heard about him. I've never seen his other projects, but I know I've heard that his work is known for having horror elements into it. And so I've never really delved into it before, but I might have to check out some more of his work because I think he did a great job on, directing this movie and directing the actors too. Like I said, they're a great ensemble. They work so well together. It's like everyone has a different personality, and that's what makes them unique and all the more better. Now, the characters themselves. Maxine, she's a very, very vibrant, very outspoken. At first, she started off being kind of timid, kind of shy, but the film gives her a little bit more time to open up and to crack open that shell. And, we kind of warm up to her eventually. And so she's our central protagonist. And then we have Jenna Ortega, who plays Lorraine. She plays Lorraine, basically this young, I want to say she's Latino or Hispanic. I'm not sure of her ethnicity, but yeah, she's sort of like the outsider of the group at first. Like she's timid and shy, and she, her morals are different from everybody else's. Everyone else is talking about, oh, we're making porn for, all these fools out here who want to, masturbate to the video and, and that's how they make their money. But Lorraine's case, it's like, well, I'm not really, don't know about this, but I can't tell you what happens to her character over time, but it's just really interesting how they just show these different ideologies and different views of the porn industry and how they all clash together. And they do that through her character, and I felt like that was really, really effective. Now, Brittany Snow, she plays Bobby Lynn, one of the dolls of the movie. Basically, what I mean by doll is one of the sweethearts. She and Kid Cudi's character, Jackson Hole, they're sort of having a fling for each other in the middle of filming, and yeah, they have sort of a thing with each other. And Kid Cudi's appearance surprised me. Like, the man is actually a really good actor. I honestly did not expect to see him in this movie, but I'm glad I watched him. Like, they cast him really well. And yeah, he plays Jackson Hole. He actually plays the man who is in the porn movie, if that makes sense. So it's like a movie within the movie, that type of logic. And those two, Jackson Hole and Bobby Lynn, played by Kid Cudi and Brittany Snow, they their interactions together are really bittersweet as well. It's really, really good seeing those two, especially interracial. Just seeing those interactions come together really smoothly. It like I said, the film it takes all these conventions and it just sort of inverts our expectations in a very positive way, in my opinion. And then you have Martin Henderson as Wayne Gilroy, and basically Wayne is sort of like the head of the group. He's like the producer of it all. He's the producer of the film, and he's trying to make sure everyone is like together, sane. At first I thought that was Matthew McConaughey, but I looked him up, and the actor that plays Wayne is actually Martin Henderson. Man, if they had a doppelganger contest, I'm pretty sure he would win, because he looked exactly like Matthew McConaughey in that film. But it was just a really good thing to kind of see his character evolve as well. Like, they basically just, they give everybody something to do in this movie, and that's what I like. I like how they just, they give everyone something to do. No one's there just to be there. Like, everybody has a very important part to play, and that's what I like. I like that. I like that a whole lot. I like how the film basically it takes its time to, you know, let the characters be themselves, and they give us time as the audience to get to know the characters. But then, it's nice. It's nice getting to know them. It's nice getting to know, oh yeah, RJ, the character RJ. I forgot. Owen Campbell plays RJ. He's the director of the pornography film, and he considers himself an auteur. Like he wants to make the porn quote unquote cinema in a way. He doesn't just want to film, naked bodies just to be filming it. He wants to make cinema out of it. And me as an aspiring filmmaker myself, I do enjoy cinema a lot, and I hope to someday make cinema, with my work. But nevertheless, yeah, his character and the direction that he goes, within his character, it's really interesting. And when you watch him, and you watch later on in the film, you're just gonna be like, whoa, like wow, like like I like how these characters evolve. Like, they're being people, they're being real people, and I think that's what's important about movies. It's like when you have characters that you can actually enjoy hanging around. The story matters. Don't just give me the visual spectacle, of blood and gore in these horror films just to be, giving it to people. Make me care about, the people that I'm watching. And this film, it does that. It really does. But once we get to know those characters, the film, I want to say it kind of shifts gears a little bit once we meet the elderly couple. So we have Howard, who is the husband, played by Stephen Ure, or his last name is spelled Ure. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I'm just going to call him Stephen Ure. So Stephen Ure here as Howard. Oh man, whew. He's like he's the husband, like I said, of the elderly, out of the elderly couple, and he's this creepy old man who basically lets them shoot on his property. Them meaning the film entourage. He lets them shoot on his property, and he kind of just stalks them along the way. Well, it's not mainly him that stalks him. It's more so his wife, Pearl, who is played by Mia Goth as well, the woman who plays Maxine Minx. So she had sort of like a double role. So she plays Pearl as well. And Pearl, whew, let me tell you about Pearl. You think Howard is creepy. No, Pearl, whew, Pearl is worse than him. Like, Pearl is out here looking at, Maxine like she's a Marilyn Monroe. Like, there's even this scene where Maxine is like taking a dive in a nearby lake or pond or whatever, and she's like, butt naked, just diving in the water. And this woman, Pearl, is just watching her from afar. I'm like, yo, like, are you okay? Yo, like, lady, don't you have anything better to do? Like, I don't know, like, crochet, like, do some crochet or something. Like, why are you looking at young women naked? I don't know, it's creepy. But I think Pearl's problem is that she's this is an older woman who's jealous of these younger people, mainly, the younger women who are a part of the porn production, because she sees this youthfulness in them. She sees this sexual high drive energy in them. And this is a woman who is sexually deprived, and she's old. Let's just call it for what it is. She's old, and she misses the old days. She misses doing the hanky-panky. She misses doing that with her husband. And so she feels jealous and feels robbed that she can't do that anymore because of her old age. And so she takes it out on, people that don't deserve it. Like, she's out here stalking people, being a creep. And it's just, I don't know, it's just weird. Like you mean to tell me you're mad because you can't be who you wanted to be back in the day, so you have to look down on other people? I don't know. That's just downright. Yeah, her character is, whew, you have to watch it to understand what I'm saying. Now, that's just one example of the creepiness in the film. I'm not going to tell you the other things that happen because that would be spoiling. You just have to watch it for yourself. That whole lake situation in the swimming pool, or the lake or the pond or whatever, that was just one example. But to see her creepiness to its full effect, you gotta watch it. It definitely takes a left turn, and it takes a left turn for all the right reasons. And I think the film, like I said before, it does a great job at balancing the ordinary people aspect and the horror aspect. It's not in the rush to get into the horror aspects, and that's what I like about it. Now, I wrote a review on the film on Rotten Tomatoes. That's where I usually write my reviews on these films or every film that I watch. And so the review that I gave it, and I'm going to read it to you all. I said, in my own words, in modern day horror flicks, one expects a lot of blood, gore, and high intense music to intensify the viewer's shock value. But with this particular film, an A24 gem I consider, it takes all of the conventions of a slasher horror flick and inverts many expectations. I can honestly admit that this is a strong merit of the film. This film embraces its authenticity in a sense that within the first half of the film, you are not even exposed to blood, gore, or any other conventions of a typical slasher right away. The film allows the audience to spend a little time with the ensemble cast and learn about their personalities and quirks, all in which they are a group of filmmakers trying to make homemade pornographic content for the average goers who enjoy it. The cast does a phenomenal job bouncing off of one another. The cinematography proves to be very admirable, stark lighting on the main cast, and high contrast on the main antagonist to display a sense of malice. The film definitely succeeds on its gory spectacle when the time calls for it, leaving the viewers with a high shock value. I definitely applaud the film for its authenticity and freshness into the horror genre. It really stands on its own 2 feet without relying too heavily on typical formulaic conventions of previous slasher films of the last few decades. This film makes a statement that will leave you with a fresh new thought on society and people as a whole. And I gave the film a 9.4 out of 10, or a 94%. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score is a 95%. And the audience score, I believe, is a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I feel like the critic score is well deserved because, like I said, this is a fresh, new take. It's a fresh nuance on the horror genre. You know, it's trying to be its own movie while paying homage to other flicks. You know, it's not trying to be that typical slasher where it's like, all right, you tell someone, you know, I'll be right back, and, you know, they don't come back. You know, this is what Scream did. Scream was sort of like a satire of horror slashers. You know, if you ever watched that movie, I feel like the first 2 Screams and the new Scream does a marvelous job at, you know, the satire. And, you know, with Jamie Kennedy's character serving as like that guy who's basically exposing the conventions of horror, you know, saying, hey, you know, if you have sex in a horror movie, it equals death. Or if you tell someone, I'll be right back, you're not going to be right back. You know, just conventions like that. And I feel like with X, it just sort of breaks the mold in a sense. You know what I'm saying? And it's a breath of fresh air to know that this film is really trying to be its own film. It's not trying to follow the format of anything else. And I can applaud the film for that. And that review that I wrote that I just read to you all, I met that review. That was it's a well-deserved score in my opinion. I gave it a 94, but Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it a 95. And so it's close enough for me. But I really do like the direction that these films take, like films like X, you know. I think the statement of the film is that some people, as they get older, they just kind of lose that sexual drive. They, not even just sexual drive, but the energy, that spark they used to have when they were younger, and they miss that. And I feel like, you know, that's something that's not Now, I don't advocate for being a creep. I'm not telling people be a creep as you get older. I'm not saying be jealous of people because, that's not really the right thing to do anyway. You shouldn't get jealous over someone younger than you. I mean, everyone's going to age at some point. And I often tell people, like, enjoy your youth while you have it, because once we get older, we're not going to get that time back. Our bodies are going to change as we get older. We're going to have wrinkles. We're going to have gray hair. We're going to have aches and pains. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'm in my early 20s and, I'm considered an old soul. Like, people call me an old soul. I got aches and pains now a little bit. Like, that's why I have to stretch. I have to stretch. I have to yawn, and I have to, every time I stand up and stretch, my back cracks. It's like, I'm like, oh my goodness, my back. Oh, my back. Like Peter Parker from Spider-Man 2 or Mr. Incredible from The Incredibles, which I think they got that joke from Spider-Man 2, in my opinion. But that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, it just comes to show that people are going to get older over time. And yeah, you're going to wish that you had that energy you had back then. And, you have to cherish it while you're young. You know what I'm saying? Don't grow up to be like, those elderly people saying, oh, well, I never got to where I wanted to be, or I never became who I wanted to be at the time. So now I see these younger folks doing it, and now I want to take what they have. I feel like that's a really powerful message, and that's something that we as people should not take for granted. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't take things like that for granted. We really need to, be careful how we treat ourselves in our youth right now, because we're here one day, but we can be gone the next. We're young today, but we can be old tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be young forever. We're not immortal. Everyone's going to get older. And I feel like the themes of this movie, there are a lot of themes that I picked up. Well, youthfulness versus old age, that was one theme that I picked up. Another theme is basically, I guess, beauty. That kind of ties into the youthfulness versus old age theme that I was telling you about. Like, just basically just admiring yourself and learning to admire yourself no matter what age you reach. Even as you get older, you have to learn that beauty's on the inside, not on the outside. And I feel like all of these social media influencers who post their bodies and inappropriate pics on Instagram and TikTok, they don't realize that their beauty can be snatched away from them at any given moment. I feel like in the way this culture today that we're living in, the social media culture, it's making people insecure. It's really making people insecure. And I'll do another episode about that at a later time, but I just wanted to say briefly that it's definitely making people insecure about themselves and making them feel like, oh, if they see this pretty girl or this pretty dude posting pics of themselves on Instagram or whatever, then, I can't amount to that because I don't look like them. I'm not pretty enough because, they're getting 800, 900, 10,000 likes and I'm getting 45 likes or 20 likes. And I feel like that shouldn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, social media is just a virtual interpretation of what people want to be like. And you have to realize the grass isn't always greener on the other side. People look at other people's lives and they feel like, oh, well, they're pretty, so that must mean they're living rich lives. They're doing well. And that's not always the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, people, you have to understand, we're all humans. We all have some serious stuff going on deep within ourselves that we don't often share with other people. Like, you can see a pretty model on Instagram. You may think their lives are all glossy, but they're really not. Like, there's more to it than what you think. They just kind of put on this mask and put on this facade to say, hey, I'm living the good life, but on the inside, they're not. And so basically this film X, to tie it back into this film, it kind of shows how, what's glossy isn't always glossy. And you see people like Pearl, the old lady in the film, looking at these younger stars, and she's like, man, well, they just don't know how good they have it. They just don't know how much of the youthfulness that they have, and they're really taking advantage of it by doing all this porn stuff. And to me, I kind of sympathize with that in a sense. Now, I don't agree with her behaviors. I don't agree with her actions. You have to watch the film to understand. But I understand the mentality behind why she felt the way she felt, because it made her insecure about herself. And there's even the scene where she even asked her husband to have sex with her, but he kind of declines because of his heart. Like, he has a really bad heart. He has a heart condition or whatnot. But that just kind of made me feel like, oh, well, this woman is lonely. This woman is really missing her youthfulness, because she, she's at this old age, and she's like, wow, well, these young folks don't know how good they have it, And I kind of get it. I'm not old, but, I look at these Instagram models and all these social media influencers, and I'm just like, well, dang, like, you guys are putting on these fronts, trying to get all these likes and attention, and you guys just don't realize, like, the grass is not always greener. So I get that wholeheartedly. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'll post something on my page, whether people like it or not, that's them. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to fish for likes. I'm not going to fish for attention. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But what you see is what you get. I'm not going to stoop down to that level. You know what I'm saying? This is the real deal. This is the real me. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you just have to, like, really pay attention to the film and really dissect the hidden meanings behind it and what it actually means, or as my film professor once said, the symptomatic meaning behind it, because there is a symptomatic meaning. You have to peel through all those layers of the horror and the gore and all that. You have to look deeper than that, because that's not what it's mainly about. You have to look at the pretty culture. There's a lot of pretty privilege in this film. You have to look at the pretty privilege culture, and you have to understand, I was talking about social media earlier, but that film took place in 1979. They didn't have social media back then. They didn't have Facebook. They didn't have Instagram. They didn't have TikTok. They didn't have all these different social media platforms that would normally make people feel insecure about themselves. So just imagine you have this old lady with no social media who is still insecure about herself. With no social media. But the porn influence still had an impact on her way of thinking. Because porn at the time, it really was widely distributed, Back then, people just didn't have the internet to go on Pornhub or all these different sites to look at porn. They had to go to these porn houses, like these porn theaters, or, sell them on the market, That's how the stars made their money back then. So to see this film shed light on the porn industry of that time and balance out the horror aspects, that, to me, that's really impressive. And I have to give it to Ty West, or T West. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm just going to call him T West, if that's okay. I apologize if I mispronounced it, but it's a really clever and a really interesting film to look at the social aspects that it entails. And it's a lot deeper than you think. And I encourage every one of you all to check it out for yourselves. So yeah, like I said, I give this a 94%. I hope you all, come to enjoy it if you decide to watch it. I mean, I know horror is not for everybody, but it's a really interesting film. I'm not really a big horror fan myself, but after watching it for myself, I was like, yeah, I wish all horror films tried to be different like this. They're not trying to be the same. It's not some Blumhouse production who is just nothing but all gore and blood and cash grabbing. You know what I'm saying? This is A24, and A24 is all about art cinema, and I appreciate them for being about art cinema. They really strive to reflect reality in their films in such a creative way. whether it be from the mise en scène to the direction to the acting to the set design to whatever. They have a very colorful and a very creative way of conveying their messages that they're trying to convey. And so, without further ado, I would like to say thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. And I hope you all go see this film at some point of time. It's called X. It came out earlier this year. It is now on digital, and I think it's on DVD now, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. You can follow me on Instagram at Corey the Jokester Davis, CoreyDjokester, and then Davis. You can follow me on Twitter. I don't really go on there that much, but you can follow me on there anyway, at Corey the Jokester without the Davis. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Corey the Jokester. That is the Jokester as in DJOKESTER. So yeah, that's pretty much it, And I want to say thank you all for those who have listened, who have made it this far. Thank you for listening all the way through. And until next time, hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care.